In the world of motorsports, teams come and go. Some teams become juggernauts, others are great underdog stories, and others reach their peak and then fall from the top of the ladder into old history. But in the history of NASCAR, not many teams reach the top, then fall to the bottom, and then climb their way back up the ladder. One of those teams to claim that is RFK Racing. A team that was once considered a super team to a team that looked like they were about to close their doors and now back to becoming contenders again. But to understand the story of this comeback, we need to take a look at the long history of ROUSH FENWAY KESELOWSKI RACing.
Mark Martin wins the Champions Spark 1 400.
And the inaugural Interstate Batteries 500 is won by South Boston, Virginia's Jeff Burton.
Oregon, and the Milwaukee Mile to Greg Biffle's list of wins. He takes the Milwaukee 200.
And Ruffin takes the checkered flag.
So where do we start in this history? Let's start with the patriarch of the team, Jack Roush. Jack Roush's career spans back decades, starting at Ford in 1964, and joined with a group of race enthusiasts called the Fastbacks in 1966 and went drag racing. In 1970, Jack would partner up with Wayne Gap and would go on to win multiple Pro Stock championships across the NHRA, AHRA, and the IHRA over 5 years. In 1976, Jack would go on and stop racing and form Roush Performance Engineering, building engines for all different forms of motorsports from asphalt oval racing to power boats. Yeah, if it could be raced, best bet it had a Roush engine in it. Jack would return to racing in 1984, where he would race sports cars in the SCCA and IMSA, where over the course of the sports car tenure, the team would score 24 championships, 12 manufacturers championships, and 119 victories with drivers Tommy Kendall, Scott Pruitt, and Willie T. Ribbs, along with other drivers. They would also win 10 straight class wins in the 24 Hours of Daytona and field cars for celebrities Paul Newman and Bruce Jenner. In 1988, Jack would take his operations down south as he would start his own NASCAR Winston Cup team, fielding the number 6 Ford Thunderbird with ASA champion Mark Martin as his driver. Now, Mark had raced in Winston Cup before doing it as a co-owner and driver in the early 80s, but Mark struggled doing it on his own, and driver Jim Stacy, DK Ulrich, and an upstart Morgan McClure Racing right after didn't lead to a successful career. However, in 1987, Mark was racing in the Busch Series where Mark caught Jack's eye, driving Bruce Lawmasters 31, and they were fast. They would score 3 wins and 6 poles in 1987, but would finish 8th in points as they had 8 DNFs, with 7 of those 8 being engine-related issues. In 1988, the new number 6, with Stroh's Light as a sponsor, would have its up-and-down season. They would score their best finish of the year early at Bristol Spring Race, where they would finish 2nd, along with 10 top 10s on the year, scoring a 19.1 average finish with 10 DNFs and 15th in the point standings. 1989 rolls around and the team improves tenfold. They score 6 poles compared to 1 in 88, 14 top 5s compared to 3, and 18 top 10s compared to 10. And they score their first win at the third-to-last race at Rockingham. They would end up finishing 3rd in the point standings with an average finish of 10.7 behind Dale Earnhardt and champion Rusty Wallace. Going into the 3rd year in 1990, they are already considered championship contenders, and with new sponsor, Folgers Coffee, they go out and prove it. On a frigid day at Richmond, Mark wins their 2nd race of the season, but controversy soon follows the 6th team. During post-race inspection, it's been found that they are running a 2.5-inch carburetor spacer on the engine. The rulebook states teams can only run a 2-inch spacer on the motor, but that's not where the controversy is. According to Jack, Mark, crew chief Robin Pemberton, and team manager Steve Meal, there's a bulletin in the rulebook saying that you can run a taller spacer if it's welded to the engine. The 2-inch rule only mattered if it was bolted to the engine, and they had welded the spacer on multiple times before, and no one cared. The only person that raised the red flag on it was Richard Childress, and he pointed out the spacer with a NASCAR official. The team gets docked $40,000 and 46 points, the equivalent of being the first car 1 lap down. The team protested the penalty, but Les Richter, the senior vice president of operations, upheld the penalty and told them, if you lose this championship, it better be by more than 46 points. So they get penalized due to a gray area in the rulebook. However, the team pushes forward, and after the 12th race of the year at Sonoma, they take the point lead and hold on to it for 16 weeks. In that span, they scored 2 more wins at Michigan and North Wilkesboro. Throughout the season, it's become pretty clear who's going to win the championship, either Mark Martin or Dale Earnhardt. At the second to last race at Phoenix, Dale Earnhardt wins the race and claims the point lead, while Mark now sits in second place, behind by 6 points. Going into the Atlanta test session before the championship race, the Roush team brings everything, and I mean everything. Multiple cars, parts and pieces. The best way to describe it is that they put the shop on wheels and took it to Atlanta. It got to a point where Robert Yates let them test Davey Allison's car and let them take their car and their engine to try to beat Dale Earnhardt for the benefit of Ford. Race day comes and the 6 team is either behind or barely in front of the 3 team all day long. And in the end, Dale Earnhardt and the 3 team win the championship over Mark Martin by 26 points. Mark put on one of the best seasons anyone can have. 3 wins, 16 top 5s, 23 top 10s, with an average finish of 6.6, and was all ruined by a gray rule penalty. 1991 comes around and it's not as impressive as 1990. They score 5 poles, but only win 1 race, the season finale at Atlanta. 14 top 5s and 17 top 10s, with an average finish of 12th, put them 6th in the points. 1992 comes around and much like many other teams, Roush expands their organization. They expand to a 2-car Winston Cup team, doing the number 16 Keystone Beer Thunderbird for Wally Dallenbach Jr., with Steve Lloyd as crew chief. While the 6-car got a new crew chief with Steve Meal and gets a new primary sponsor, and graced us with their iconic Valvoline car. 1992 would also see Roush field their first Busch Series entry, the iconic Winn-Dixie number 60. Mark Martin would drive the 60 for 14 races and score 1 win at Rockingham, with 5 top 5s and 9 top 10s and 5 DNFs. For the Winston Cup team, it was an up and down year. For Wally Dallenbach, it was a struggle. He would score 1 top 5, a 5th at Watkins Glen, which happens to be his only top 10, and would finish 24th in the points. As for Mark, he would have a slightly better 92 season from 91. He would score 2 wins at Martinsville and Charlotte, and would be one of the 6 contenders for the championship at the season finale at Atlanta. However, Mark is 6th out of the 6 behind by 113 points. He would need a miracle to win the championship, but would suffer an engine failure, finishing 6th in points again with a 12.4 average finish. 1993 turns out to be a better year for both teams. Wally would score 1 top 5, a career best 2nd at Watkins Glen, and would score 4 top 10s in the season with new crew chief Howard Comstock, and would finish 22nd in the points with a 21.6 average finish, which was a slight improvement from 92, where he had a 22.2 average. As for Mark, he would win 5 races in 1993, winning 4 of them in a row at Watkins Glen, Michigan, Bristol, and Darlington. Plus, he would go on to win the second to last race at Phoenix. He'll finish 3rd in points with the 5 wins, 12 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and an average finish of 11.6. In the Busch Series, Mark would score 7 wins in his 14 starts, which ironically happens to be his top 5 and top 10 numbers. So if he wasn't winning, he was either crashing or had an engine failure. In 1994, more changes would come for the team. Ted Musgrave would replace Wally Dallenbach in the 16 and would have a new sponsor, the Family Channel, while Mark would get a new associate sponsor, Reese's. In 1994, Mark would finish 2nd in the points again to Dale Earnhardt. Only this time it wasn't even close. Dale would win the championship by 444 points. He would score 2 wins at Watkins Glen and Atlanta, along with a pole at Watkins Glen and 20 top 10s. While in the Busch Series, Mark would win 3 races across 14 starts. For Ted Musgrave, he had himself an okay year. He scored 3 poles and a top 5 near the end of the year at Phoenix, and had 8 top 10s with an average finish of 17.4 with a 13th place points finish, a very big improvement over Wally. Going into 1995, a few changes came to the team. The Winston Cup teams were the same. The Busch Series team stayed the same for the most part, except they added a 2nd car for Musgrave at Charlotte, the number 9 Action Performance Ford, and they added a part-time entry for NASCAR's new Craftsman Truck Series. They fielded the number 61 for 6 races, 1 for Musgrave, and 5 stars for Todd Bodine. The truck team did pretty well. While it didn't win, the 61 finished in the top 10 in every race with a worst finish of 8th. In the Busch Series, Mark would win 3 races and 15 starts, and Ted would finish 14th in his lone start. In Cup, both teams would improve from 94. Mark would win 4 poles in 4 races, score 22 top 10s with a 10.7 average finish with only 1 DNF, and finish 4th in points. For Ted, he would score 13 top 10s and had a 13.2 average finish and would finish 7th in the points. It's the first time both Roush cars would finish in the top 10 in points, but the second Roush car has yet to see victory lane, as Ted had a pair of seconds at Martinsville and Pocono. 1996 comes and the team expands even more. They had a third Cup team, the number 99 Exide Batteries car for South Boston, Virginia's Jeff Burton, and has Buddy Parrott as his crew chief. They would also field a full-time truck team, the number 80 for the 51-year-old veteran Joe Ruttman, and would run a part-time second truck, the 99 Exide Batteries truck for their Cup drivers. In 1996, when Roush won a race, it was because of Mark Martin. He would win their first truck race at North Wilkesboro and would win 6 Busch races in the Winn-Dixie car. But on the Winston Cup side, all the drivers went winless. It's their first winless season since '88. Mark was the best of the team. He scored 14 top 5s and 23 top 10s with 4 second-place finishes on the year. Helped him to an 11.3 average finish and finished 5th in the points. For Ted Musgrave, he would have an aggressive year. He would only score 2 top 5s and 7 top 10s with the best finish of 3rd at Richmond. Ted would have a 17.6 average finish and would finish 16th in points. For Jeff Burton, his season started well. He had 2 top 5s in the first 3 races and was 2nd in points. But at the 4th race at Atlanta, he would fail to qualify for the race. That would take the 99 team from 2nd to 14th in the points, and they would never leave that range. They would score 6 top 5s and 12 top 10s with an average finish of 16.1, and they would finish 13th in the points. For the truck team with Joe Ruttman, he would score 7 top 5s and 16 top 10s with the best finish of 3rd 3 times at the end of the year and had a 10.3 average finish and finished 4th in the points. 1997 proves to be a better year for the Roush-Keteers. They fielded 2 full-time truck teams with Chuck Bound driving the 99. They fielded 2 part-time Busch teams, the 60 and the 9 for the Cup drivers, and the Cup side started with 3 teams and ended with 4. We'll get to that in a minute. For the Truck Series, Joe Ruttman and crew chief Randy Goss would lead the team to 5 wins with 13 top 5s and 17 top 10s with an average finish of 9th, ending him 3rd in points. For Chuck, he scored 4 top 5s with a best finish of 2nd at Phoenix. 13 top 10s and an average finish of 12.6 would nab him 9th in points. In the Busch Series, it would be the first time that 2 Roush cars would go to victory lane. Mark would win 6 races in 15 starts, and Jeff Burton would win 2 races and 13 starts in the track gear car. The story of the Cup side is the same. Mark would score 4 wins, 16 top 5s, and 24 top 10s, and an average finish of 9th would nab him 3rd in points. For Jeff Burton, he would score his first 3 wins of his career. He scored his first win at the inaugural Texas race and would follow it up with wins at New Hampshire and Martinsville. He would score 13 top 5s and 18 top 10s with a 12.4 average finish and would end up 4th in points. Unfortunately for Ted Musgrave and new crew chief James Ince, his season would not match his teammates. He would score 5 top 5s and 8 top 10s, better than 96, but would finish 12th in points with an 18.3 average finish. Now about that 4th car. At the start of the 1997 season, Chad Little was driving the number 97 John Deere Pontiac for Greg Pollux. But in the second part of the season, Jack would buy the team from Greg for the 1998 season, and according to Racing Reference, Jack was listed as the owner of the 97 for the rest of the 97 year. So for 12 races, Jack fielded a Pontiac. And if you thought this team couldn't get any bigger, you are surely mistaken. With the 6, 16, 97, and 99 Cup fleet, Roush adds a 5th car to their program, the number 26 Cheerios car for the 1995 Busch Series champion, Johnny Benson, with Steve Meal as his crew chief. The Truck Series team would also see some changes, as Chuck Bound would be released after the first race at Disney, yes I said Disney, and a new driver would join the team at the start of the season, the driver out of Vancouver, Washington, Greg Biffle. For the Cup Series, we'll go from worst to best. We'll be starting off with Ted Musgrave, as his tenure at Roush ended in the middle of the season. Ted would score 1 top 5 at his time at Roush, a 2nd at Martinsville, and 4 top 10s. But that 2nd at Martinsville will be his last top 10, as he would have mixed results throughout the summer, and after the 20th race at Watkins Glen, he would be replaced by Kevin LePage, who was also without a ride. Ted will finish the season driving for Bud Moore, Bill Elliott, Travis Carter, and Buzz McCall. He'll end the season 23rd in points. As for LePage, his 13 starts in the Prime Star car weren't that impressive either. He scored 2 top 10s, but had an average finish of 23.2. Kevin would finish the season 35th in points after DNQing races and missing races for just not having a ride. For Johnny Benson, his season got off to a rocky start as well. He fails to qualify for the Daytona 500, but in the next 10 races, he finishes in top 10 in 7 of them, scoring 3 top 5s of the season in that span with a best finish of 4th. But after the Coke 600, Johnny's results would take a dip and would finish in the top 10 3 more times in the 22 races left on the schedule. He'll end the season 20th in points with an average finish of 22.3. Now Chad Little's season was a little bit better. He would score top 5 at Texas, finishing 2nd, and 7 top 10s with an average finish of 19.4, with Jeff Hammond as his crew chief for the majority of the season. But failed to qualify at Atlanta and had 7 DNFs hurt him, finishing him 15th in standings. We now get to the 2 flag bearers of the team, first with Jeff Burton. Now Jeff's 98 nearly mimics his 97 campaign. With new crew chief Frank Stoddard, he would score 2 wins at New Hampshire and Richmond, 18 top 5s and 23 top 10s with a 12.6 average finish, would place Jeff 5th in the points. Now for Mark Martin, you can argue that this was either his second or his best season of his career. He and new crew chief Jimmy Fenning would win 7 races on the year, the most he would have in a single season. He would also score 22 top 5s and 26 top 10s and would lead over 1,700 laps with an average finish of 8.6 in the Valvoline Cummins car, and would place 2nd in the points again, but this time to Jeff Gordon, who was putting up numbers drivers can only dream about. The Busch Series teams had some success too. Mark would win 2 races at Charlotte and Atlanta, while Jeff Burton won 3 races at Michigan, Richmond, and Homestead. For the Truck Series teams, they had somewhat of a down year. While Greg Biffle went winless with crew chief Randy Goss, he did score 4 poles, along with 8 top 5s and 12 top 10s, with a best finish of 2nd twice. He'll finish the season averaging a 15th place finish and 8th in the point standings. But he did win Rookie of the Year. Joe Ruttman's year was a bit of a down year. He did finish 3rd in the points again, and had 14 top 5s and 19 top 10s, but only had 1 win at Watkins Glen. That win at Watkins Glen would be his last for the team, as he would depart at season's end. As we get closer to the new millennium, 1999 would bring more changes to the team. Mike Bliss would come in and replace Joe Ruttman for the truck team, and would have Matt Chambers as crew chief. And in the second half of the Winston Cup season, they would field a 6th car for 5 races with their new driver from Cambridge, Wisconsin, Matt Kenseth. Man, 6 cars, talk about a fleet. But all those cars did not put up great results. In Matt's 5 races, he would score 1 top 5, a 4th at Dover, but he had 3 DNFs in those 5 starts. For Johnny Benson, his season was a disaster. He would only score 2 top 10s all year and had 3 different crew chiefs on that year. He had Bobby Leslie at the start, Pat Trison in the middle, and Tommy Morgan at the end of the season. He would have a 25th place average finish and finish 28th in the points and would depart from the team. Kevin LePage would also have the same issue as Johnny. He had 4 different crew chiefs over the year, starting with James Ince, then had Tommy Morgan for a race, had Skip Eiler for nearly half the season, and finished the season with Pat Trison. He would have 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s with an average finish of 23.3 and would finish 25th in the points. But he did score a pole at the season finale at Atlanta. Now Chad Little was able to keep Jeff Hammond all season, but they only scored 5 top 10s and had an average finish of 23.4, and they would finish 23rd in the points. Now let's talk about the 2 flag bearers again for the team, starting with Jeff Burton. This season was probably Jeff's best season of his career. He would score 6 wins on the season, 2 of those being the Coke 600 and the Southern 500, along with 18 top 5s and 23 top 10s with 11.3 average finish, and would finish 5th in the points. Now for the veteran of the team, Mark Martin. Now Mark's 1999 wasn't as successful as 1998, but it was still pretty consistent. He would score 2 wins at Richmond and Dover, along with 19 top 5s and 26 top 10s with an average finish of 9.4, would place Mark 3rd in the standings. Now the Busch Series teams did pretty well themselves. Mark would win 6 races and score 10 top 10s in 14 starts, while Jeff Burton would win 1 race at Rockingham and score 12 top 10s in 14 starts. The same can be said about the Truck Series teams. For their new driver Mike Bliss, he had a pretty fair season. He would score 6 top 5s and 13 top 10s with an average finish of 12.2 and finished 9th in points. He would score 1 win at Topeka in 1999, and it will be his only win with Roush, as he would leave the team at season's end. Now, to describe Greg Biffle's season, we can separate it in 2 parts. The first half, and then the second half. The first half was pretty good. He would score his first 2 wins of his career at Memphis and Portland, and would have 8 top 10s and 12 starts with an 8.5 average finish. Pretty good. But what about that second half?
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take
Jesus, Greg, did you not give anyone else a chance? Greg and the 50 team would win 7 of 13 races and have an average finish of 4.9. They were dominating the second half of 1999. And in the second half, they stayed in the top 2 in points. Going to the season finale at California, Greg is leading the points with Jack Sprague in second behind by 21 and Dennis Setzer in third behind by 25. Greg has the chance to win Jack Roush his first Drivers' Championship, but he has to be within 4 or 5 spots from Jack and Dennis if he wants to win the championship. Dennis would become a non-factor early in the race, so all he had to do was stay close to Jack. At the end of the race, Greg would finish 7th, and Jack Sprague would win the race and the championship by 8 points. Much like Mark Martin in 1990, Greg had one of the best seasons anyone could have had, and he got beat at the last opportunity of the season. While the Roush team had come close multiple times to win their first Drivers' Championship, the turn of the millennium would bring them all their fortunes.